Yo, what's up, people? It's the Solar Kid, and it is the Other Side of the Sun podcast. And I've got my man Joey Baker in the house. Back.
Oi, oi.
What you
How
saying,
you doing,
brother?
brother? You well?
I'm very well, thank you. Nice to see you in the flesh.
Absolutely, man. It's been a while since we last spoke, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has.
Couple months, man. We've been like skimming each other and onto different trajectories and all
Yeah,
the sort.
I almost saw you the other day. I saw people putting up your art in the warehouse. That was your art, wasn't it? And I was like, where the
I
fuck
like it.
is Joey, man?
Yeah. The art moves there before I'm there.
Precedes you. Your reputation precedes you.
I know it's becoming more frequent now where people are like, oh, they introduce themselves and they're like, oh, they know my art before they know me, and then I'm like, yes,
Bro,
I've been
in a few spaces where I've actually seen your art, and I was like, what is that, Joey? Oh shit! I was like, damn.
Yeah,
Sick.
dope. This is the reason why, that it's so good to expel your creations onto spaces, and that's why my murals and public art is like almost like the most high, because it is there to facilitate spaces and it affects people, and you're never aware of how the chain of that experience has inspired and facilitated people. Occasionally you get like stories of old murals and stuff, and I personally have been affected by people's art that they've left as like reminiscent sort of like artifacts, and that stimulated my progress through life. We've
Bro,
all had like musicians, man, like
graffiti, you know what I'm saying? All of that kind of art, street art, or I mean, obviously murals are like slightly a bit more complex, or well, if you want to call it that. But I remember yeah, I mean, in Joburg, when I was growing up, there was a guy called Rusty, and he was one of the first people to kind of use airbrushing for his graph work. So everything looked
nice,
fucking clean.
delicate.
Bro, like it affected the space, man. I mean, we got some dope graffiti like in Joburg and stuff, but like his pieces always stood out, you know what I mean? I don't know if he still does it, but like, yeah, there was a few, like there was a guy called Hocha as well, who was really good from the Cape, and like,
Oh man, yeah, I've seen little aspects of South African art floating up, and obviously because of it's like freedom of speech really in necessary a place that's like politically got a bit of turbulence, and as a result the murals are always incredible.
I mean, the art in general is like that, the poetry, the theater, the music,
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm sure now it's changed a lot in the last, I mean, I haven't lived there for over 15 years now, but like and people have kind of more like millennials have grown up in a free South Africa, or free South Africa and kind of stuff. So people are starting to make art more about having fun and stuff rather than just political subjects, So
I like it. Cool.
It's changing.
What happened a couple years ago? Because wasn't there like a bit of a shift in like land ownership and like farm work and stuff? Because I heard that a lot of through a South African friend, that the pressure sort of built up over the years, and a lot of like old landowners and stuff were getting their proposities like rewritten off them, and stuff,
the Afrikaner,
take power back.
The Afrikaner farmers, I think there was a whole thing about land grabbing and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, it's contentious, man, for the people who are losing their land, but then at the same time, it's like you're talking about,
why have you got this land? Well, this was my forefathers' land.
But then it's like, it's contentious in the sense that, like, that happened probably a much longer time ago. So like the people who are on the property are like, well, we've been here for like 100 years or whatever, and we're like, well, our people have been here for 10,000 years, you know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, these are all issues that like a developing country or a country that comes out of such a political past need to go through. I mean, like I said when Mandela was released and we finally got like a free vote to democratic elections, I was like, it would take like 100 years before things start to, basically where the generations and generations mindsets have been kind of neutralized from the past, when kids of different colors start going to school together and realize, you know what I mean? All those types of things. Because you can see in places like England and in America and stuff, where you guys have been going to multiracial schools for much longer, like maybe a few decades more than we have, you know.
Oh yeah, oh
So
yeah. Young kids growing up, we don't see that
yeah,
differentiation.
yeah.
Don't see like the problems between different colors of your skin. I mean, I was just talking to a friend here in Ireland, and she was saying how when she was at school, there was like there was one black person and one Chinese, and da 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 da. So everywhere's developing on its own different type of like scale in terms of which is fueled by business and investments, because obviously
And
in the last 10
globalization,
years here in Dublin.
globalization, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, you know, there's good and bad parts of globalization as well. I mean, the good parts are the gene splicing, beautiful mixed race babies, and all of the cultures blending together to create like subcultures, which I think are incredible. And I personally, you know, use that as my sort of pinnacle point for my art, to sort of create that sense of empathy between being like, oh, look at this gorgeous, beautiful cultures, creations, and the similarities that they hold around their gods and their deities, and they're not so different from us, are they?
You beat me to the punch, man. I was gonna get into that.
Yeah,
I actually
yeah,
didn't even introduce you properly, you know. So for those who don't know, Joey is an artist, a muralist, a designer, painter, builder, animator. Anything
yeah.
else out there?
I'll try to attack it all, basically.
Just a multi-skilled, amazing human being as well, you know.
Thank you very much, brother.
So that is the intro, slightly late, but yeah.
Podcast, mate. You know what I mean?
Podcast.
You can't hold it back, man. It goes where it wants to go. You know?
Yeah, just before we get into your actual art and stuff, man. I mean, like these podcasts, I want to get to know people better. You know, I mean, I actually really want to know who you are. So tell me a bit about like growing up, what it was like, where you grew up. You know, what were you like? Were you always into art, that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So my passport says that I was born in Hemel Hempstead. So I was born on an old hemp farm, which I always use as a point of like explanation to people, being like, "Why is all the hemp gone?"
Is
We
hemp,
used to
hemp still
cultivate it.
actually, because it was is it called that because of it was a hemp farm?
Yeah, hemp steed. Yeah. They used to
Okay.
cultivate it. But obviously, I was born in a hospital. You know, not just on a hemp farm, which was located there. But I grew up in a place called St. Albans.
Yeah, I actually live quite close to there, you know.
Fair play, man. Yeah, it's not too far out. You know, it's like leaving London, and basically you get to see like a vast patch of green in between leaving from like West Hampstead and then going up the Thameslink line.
That's up the N1. So like on the M25, you got junction 24, 23. Or like between 24 and 23 is Potter's Bar and whatever. And
Potter's Bar,
on
exactly.
the next junction.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, dope.
Yeah,
Dope.
But St. Albans is lovely, bro. Beautiful.
It's a gorgeous town. An old like Roman settlement there, Verulamium, which is yeah. But I mean, so many places claim to have like the oldest pub in the world, don't they? But just so happens in St. Albans they've got one of those claiming as well. And yeah, it was super beautiful. I was raised up until the age of, I think I was 5. My parents were together, and then my father came out as basically being gay because he had suffered quite a bit for the last past years. I'm the youngest of 2 other children, so we're all like 2 years apart. So I kind of always remember sort of being brought up, and I was a happy-go-Larry child, you know.
Well, you're the last one, yeah. So you're the last
one, man. Last
yeah.
one. Always
but the youngest is also a happy chappy, man. He's just a cool guy.
Yeah, it's kind of like the presence of, you know, the sphere around you, and the pressure isn't on you as an individual to sort of live up to these archetypal type sort of personalities. Do you know what I mean? You're kind of like the little one that gets looked after, and you can kind of do what you want, and your parents are more lenient on you because they've
already had
already. Yeah. They're like, we're not dealing with this again, like whatever. So yeah, it was. I feel like I'm only realizing now, like the past of your childhood and how it plays into your personality, like now today. So I was passed around quite a lot of different families, because my mum was a single mum bringing up 3 kids by herself, and she had a drama production company. So I was in between being passed around families and stuff. I was also forced on stage to
Nice.
act, which I think runs within me, but I'm also scared of stages. Like I can perform, and I love performance when I'm in my own space and with mates. Do you know what I mean? I like being sometimes the center of attention, and being quite happy-go-lucky and entertaining. But I do have this sort of fear, or this sort of like, this inbuilt sort of dilemma about being on stage, because I didn't want to be on stage and was forced on stage. I think that's coming back around, because my family are musical, but I was always the one to pick up a pencil or a paintbrush and sort of sit there and entertain myself. And then that kind of was maybe my way of finding my own individuality out, and sort of being like, fuck you, I'll do what I want. And yeah, and that sort of played through. But now I sort of realized, like, there's people in this world that really suffer from social anxiety about, just being around people that they don't know. And I feel quite lucky that I don't experience any of that. I'm literally just like, you can throw me into a big group of crowd of people, and I feel very comfortable sort of introducing myself and, being quite new to it. So there's always these positives and negatives, that sort of balance themselves out.
I actually experienced that when I was a bit younger, like in my early 20s, but I don't know, maybe because there was no diagnosis for it, or I just didn't. I've always been a person that where if I'm faced with adversity or something, I kind of put myself in the mix or in the situation. So even though I used to suffer with that kind of slight social anxiety, and I'm sure people who know me would never believe it, but like I used to actually get to the point where I couldn't breathe, like, you know what I mean? And I used to just put myself out there, and then eventually overcame it. But
yeah, dude, I mean, it's the only way, because we all feel that anxiety, but we either let it take us, or it's excitement, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's like learning how to deal with it, and implementing.
Have a few drinks, take the edge off.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just dealing with my social anxiety.
Well, yeah, I mean, that looks nice, man.
Housemates made a really nice lemonade, and then she really quickly was like, "Oh, this would be really good with some gin. It's Friday," so she popped out and got some
colourful gin, though, man. It looks nice.
Yeah, it's actually, they're not ice cubes. They're like ice cubes inside of little plastic things.
Ah, okay, that's what it is. But just the
color. Yeah. There's a flamingo in there and all sorts, mate. Don't ask.
The artist in you.
Yeah, it's kind of the same when a couple years ago, when we used to go on school trips with the school, going to like old castles and stuff around the country, I would always get this feeling of severe anxiety when I was like up a turret or like up at a height somewhere. And it was only afterwards I sort of realized I've got a tiny sense of vertigo. I mean, not massively, but I was always a little bit trembly around heights. And then I was like, do you know what? We can't have that. You need to go and start rigging stages and get up and cherry pickers and then now when I'm at heights, I feel truly alive, because your adrenaline's running. The fear is the thing that keeps you alive, but you realize that it's excitement, and it's just about controlling these things which are innate within your RNA and DNA. Do you know what I mean?
I think I may have something similar, and I've tried to speak to friends of mine who like work in circus or do trapeze or like shit like that. And I have a friend who does he climbs, but then he also does like tightrope walking at fucking ridiculous heights and
crazy.
Shit like, and I was trying to ask him, like, how the fuck do you, like, bro, you know what I mean? Like, how do you manage that anxiety when you're at that? Like, what are you thinking about? Like, you know what I mean? And it's weird. He couldn't really explain it to me. And I was just thinking, like, fuck, like, wow.
Yeah, I've a lot of tightrope walkers and stuff. It's like, it is the adrenaline rush, isn't it? Really, it's the feeling of being on the edge of your own existence and pushing yourself to the limits, I suppose, that really gives you a sense of achievement from just experiencing that moment, which is dopamine, serotonin. It's all the good shit until you fall.
Who needs drugs?
Yeah, man, get up on that rope. but I mean, I've never really pushed into that sense. I've done slackline
Okay.
stuff
Yeah.
because it's a great pastime in between
Yeah.
palm trees, and
Yeah.
and it does
I've
get
heard about it,
addictive.
yeah. I've seen people doing it.
It's hard. It's hard. I think as a person, I need to work on my core balance. From the
Yeah,
from the
it's all
chest.
from the core, man. Pilates.
Yeah, dude. Good old Pilate.
Did you go and study art formally, or did you just whatever?
I went through my A levels. Yeah. Once I left school, once you did the whole GCSE spiel, and then
For
I went
any
to go.
for any South African viewers, A levels is similar to matric, which is like our final school year kind of thing.
Okay, yeah, cool. And yeah, you can even leave and go and leave school, or I suppose follow.
Your sixth form college, or
Yeah, precisely. And the education is still free here for those levels, isn't it? But I'm not sure in South Africa whether then you've got a.
we have to pay for schooling unless I think there are. I think government schools are quite cheap or something. I mean, I'd be lying if I.
Yeah. So yeah, and I went through my A levels and did media studies, photography and art, and I was always good at art. And it was a really small class at art, so it was quite cool to be with a teacher and just have like 4 other girls. Do you know what I mean? It was always that. It was always like me with like a load of females for some reason. I don't know why, man.
Nice.
Like, it's nice. I
I think
mean,
when you're able to balance that energy, like generally, I've always felt comfortable around females, but I think because I was raised by my mom and her sisters, and my mom's was always around women in that sense. I've always kind of felt comfortable around women.
it's definitely the better way to be. I mean, I feel quite thankful that there's a positive about my dad not ever being president, and probably like yourself was I never had this egotistical masculine energy to fight against, and this sort of like rivalry improving oneself. It was always just sort of like motherly maternal love, that was unconditional in a sense. And I think that kind of really works into your person after a while, and creates a much more chilled out type of character.
But
um
do you feel like there's maybe that little bit of aggression that you miss every now and again, just that kind of manly man kind of vibe that
I
you
mean,
need?
I'm an Aries. I like being around masculine energy. I also can tolerate dicks, as if in like people who are kind of like egotistical pricks, and I'm like, fine, give it to me. Do you know what I mean? Let's have it. So I think, yeah, I'd like to think that there's a nice balance in my personality, because I also personally believe that your personality is like your best craft. It's the thing that you should be cultivating beyond anything else that you do with your life. It's like it's the messenger of like truth, and it's the craft which you should be designing and be your best craft, really, in the way that you interact with the world around you before you do
You're,
anything else in life, any other material that comes from your fingertips. So I've tried. I
bro, I mean,
hope I've done
saying
well.
that, bro, it's like it shows in your artwork, bro. Like I've never experienced any art like yours in the sense that where anything that I look at, I'm affected by immediately, bro. It's probably some of the fucking
No,
dopest work I've ever seen, man. Like honestly, your art is
no.
fucking amazing, bro. Like
Bro.
if I had more money, I would have already acquired a few pieces. So hold some for me for when I do get more money.
Yeah. That's all good, man. Invest, mate. Invest in the things that you need. Like art is a,
It's a
you know,
luxury, isn't it?
it's a luxury, and you can also feel good within yourself that just that it's being produced, and you don't have to necessarily invest in it. And because someone like myself is, to me it doesn't matter what roof I mean, to you, yeah, it's a luxury. To me, I have to do it, and I don't need the norms in my life. I need the art, which is the luxury.
No, I
But
mean,
I could be living in a shack and still be creating art and be happy.
but
But
that's
if I had a big
like,
house and
but just I mean, that's creating. Like for me, it's acquiring. Like I would. There's so much art that I would have bought by now. Do you know what I mean? But I just never felt that like I'm in a position to start collecting art. And I know that there will be a time when I start. I probably will. And I'll do it to support. So I'll buy some prints or something like of friends or whatever if they, they
Yeah,
support the, the medium and their work.
it
Yeah.
is nice having a instead of necessarily buying friends like material gifts from high street brands and just sort of like clutter and stuff. It is nice always to, and it's why Etsy and places have sort of been so big, because people are like, they can give money to independent artists and it's got that essence of like actually meaning something, someone's sort of love, care and attention and individuality.
Is that
Because
what
each piece,
Etsy, is that what they do?
what, on Etsy?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's mainly like independent jewelry designers and like lovely, like arty sort of things, from little emblems and earrings and paintings, pictures, yeah, you name it, frames, household, like nice household sculptures and stuff.
So I mean,
So,
while we're on the topic, do you wanna? I actually wanted to show people some art, man. Like, do you wanna have a chat about some art, or
of course, bro. I mean, I
do you
can
mind
always
if I bring up the pieces that I like, and then maybe you can just give me a little
go for it, mate. Go for it, dude. Go for it. Go for it.
because I would love people to see this stuff, man. This is freaking so sick.
Yeah, I'm like a rolling commentary anyway. You've just got to like beep, and put me on mute, because otherwise I'll just keep going. Just keep rolling it through.
So you can see my screen, yeah?
Yeah, dude.
Okay, so this one.
Glitch. Yeah.
Just like if I wasn't such a bitch, oh, I'm not much of it, but I mean, like, I would have that on my back. Like, I love tattoos and stuff, and this just looks like a proper traditional, like, kind of Japanese.
Yeah, absolutely. Gorgeous. I mean, I'm fascinated by the traditional Japanese tattoo art and the stylization that they use in East Asia. It's gorgeous. The benevolence within the line making and the choice of imagery is something which you can see everywhere. Like this combination of sort of the aesthetics of flowers representing life and nature, combined with like the mandala work and the line work, which is like basically elevates your brain into a more of a transient state, because I think a lot of mandalas are meant to be like the symbol of the bridge in between the internal and the external worlds.
Well, a
So
mandala is a cycle, isn't it? So
yeah, I mean, symbolism just pops off. But the term glitch, I was sort of like playing around with the idea that all of nature is basically based on mutation, malfunction, and manipulation, and basically trying to relate that to our sense of like society, where we are trying to narrow down constantly this diversity of nature because we're scared of it, refine it and control it. Like grass, lawns, palm tree jungles where we cut down rainforests, and even in personalities within people. At school we scorn different types of ideologies and different types of people,
religion,
religion, everything, rather than having this great broad acceptance and this idea of beauty of everyone's existence. So kind of being like, all of the mutants out there, well done, because you're the code that keeps us going. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're weird, it's because you're friggin' wonderful, and that is what nature is. And
I've always prided myself on being a weirdo, man. I love it.
Dude, big up the weirdos, man.
Yeah.
Big up the weirdos, because everyone is, but it's just the fear of social constructs that kind of stops people from expressing themselves fully to their potential, which is all the weird abstract nonsense that we use to be able to propel ourselves.
Well, you know what I like a lot about it? It's like, it's almost like you are combining so many different art forms in one piece. I mean, like this, look at this one here. This is fucking ridiculous, magnetic. Like, it looks like, did you ever see that classic Russian painting of that lady? It's quite a famous painting. What is it called, man? He does one that's like the dying swan as well.
Ooh.
But yeah, this looks like that. And this colorful background wall just looks like something more pop art, more modern, more. I
You
don't
know
know.
what? That background. This was a model of my mate called Truyen, and I kind of. I mean, video games always play some sort of aspect within my art. Obviously, as a youngster, I used to play a lot. Now I don't do that, but I try and like design the worlds using 3D modeling softwares and game engines and stuff. But I've always been fascinated with the development of technology and sort of combining that with traditional sort of imagery from different cultures and ancient art. So also with the use of modern tech, say like Photoshop, being able to combine all of these imagery together to sort of create this new visual language, like that pattern on that you see in the background is actually from a lighter. You know,
Okay.
yeah, it's from a lighter, and I was like, that's like a disco floor. Do you know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
something that is like fascinating.
And then look at her back piece here as well. It looks like something fucking out of Star Wars or some shit. Like really, I don't know.
Yeah.
She's I don't know, and like a
Cyborg geisha.
cyborg. Yeah, cyborg. That's the word. I think.
So
Cyborg geisha.
yeah, I
But
mean,
then
you could
she's
take
got the dot on it as
the
well.
bindi,
Yeah.
which is not, I don't think is native to
No,
Japanese culture.
no,
It's
not at
definitely
all.
the Indian,
Yeah.
but I was more focused on just representing the third eye
Yes,
through
of course.
symbolism, not necessarily, marriage and vulnerability and trust and companionship, but
Bro, I think
always if you
that's why
yeah,
your art like resonates with me so much because I mean, even this podcast that I'm doing, like this podcast is because I love ancient history, I love technology, I love sport, I love science, I love, I'm very into, I
yeah.
love like many things in the world, you know what I mean? And this kind of captures pretty much everything. Like this codex, fucking out, beautiful, man.
Codex. Yeah, that's quite a recent one, actually. Well, when I say recent, I mean I haven't painted in the last 6 months because I've been on a bit of a warpath with trying to learn new skills and develop my
Upskilling.
ability.
That's
Upskilling.
the word of the moment, the
Yeah,
lockdown
yeah,
moment.
yeah, yeah. The
Yep,
Renaissance upskilling, bro.
yep.
um,
The pivot, the diversifying your portfolio.
yeah. So at the moment in life, I'm like, okay, 6 months traversing some unknown land, climbing volcanoes and being in the sun and painting, going back to the core roots. And then the other 6 months, it's back into society and upskilling and taking on crafts. Because like you, brother, I'm just so fascinated by every aspect of our life.
Yeah.
Like, and also more in tune with the feeling of kind of knowing that my fulfillment comes from almost being in a childlike state of awe. And one of my favorite artists, Alex Gray, who if anyone's listening to this and doesn't know who that is, go on alexgray.com, look at his art. It's outstanding.
Yeah.
But he mentions in one of his books that the mission of art, that like basically we are all trying to achieve a state of awe. And it's a childlike state, which is like the drive behind all science, which is basically trying to being expelled into a wonder state by something, being like, how does that work? Why does that work? How can we do this? And then basically pushing forward and making it happen, which is what science is. There's a vision behind all science, or a problem that needs to be solved. And being out of your depth with your craft and not knowing what's going on and taking on new skills kind of is good, really good for your ego, and it's really good for keeping you fresh. And if you've ever heard people that have like writer's block or like artist block, it's basically because they've not destroyed themselves into a state where they're free from their own clutches of their own understanding of stuff.
Mm.
So it's always good to remain in that childlike state where you pretend like, almost like you don't know anything within your body right now will only ever take up like 0.0000001% of everything.
Bro, I
Probably
swear
less, more decimals than that.
you explain so much of the way I feel about existence, literally, and finding that blissful that blissful childlike state, bro, and just staying in awe of everything around you is such a beautiful thing. Like you said, I've not I've never, but like, you know, once I've kind of started coming to consciousness and awareness of self, words like I'm bored, like, you know, writer's block
Oh
and shit
man,
like that
yeah.
never occurred to me. And like you, just like you, I'm constantly finding new things to learn, new things to do. I've always got shit like,
Mm,
you know,
mm,
I've just always got something. There's always something more, like whether it's a language or, you know, even
mm,
constantly practicing my instruments, playing bass, or, you know what I mean, playing guitar,
mm.
practicing piano. Like it never ends. Like, you know what I mean? There is, I don't know, it just never ends for me, really. Like,
There's no point of perfection within anything, is there really? You know, others might think so, but within your own craft, you realize that the scale of your ability is always sort of centralized between the being bad and being better, or being worse
exactly.
and being better. Do you know what I mean? Or
But
being worse and being
I
better.
don't know, your
You're just
artwork
like,
kind of sits very close to the, you know, the upper end of the scale, man. It's beautiful, bro.
thank you,
Like
bro.
what, I mean, obviously you've told me what inspires you in life and stuff like that. How has this period, I mean, okay, well, I suppose you've spoken about it as well, but I was just gonna ask like how the lockdowns affected business and like how you've been and how you've thought
Yeah.
of it and all that shit.
So so when lockdown sort of first happened, I'd just come back from Mexico with my beloved, who's I'm actually at right now, which is super nice.
Nice.
And yeah, I obviously I had a load of contracts which I've been sort of building up for like quite a few years within my practice for quite a lot of money. And the parents of my girlfriend, they just bought land in Mexico, and then we've all gone in a way to basically be like, well, we'll do the construction, we'll bring in the people, we'll make the beautiful thing happen. You know, you've laid down the ley lines, we're here to, you know, pump the
Build up.
energy into those lines, build the temple on those energy lines, sort of thing. And yeah, and then obviously everything happened. I lost all my contracts, which was quite a substantial amount of money. In fact, the first month I was going to be able to fund like the project through loads of
Wow.
corporate murals. And then my resilient self after that was just like,
Hustle,
no,
hustle,
no,
baby.
yeah, no, 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 no. And as a way, I sort of realized that, okay, this isn't a year for financial like gain, which was what it was going to be like, but this is now the year for education, which is something that no one can take away from you. It's up to you with all the tools that we have within our society, and we can literally go online and learn anything about anything. And with all the time that we had upon our hands, I set to play. I'd already done a lot of you know, bits of videography and stuff because I studied photography for quite a few years, but I'd never delved into, you know, the whole 3D animation, model making, game engine design. And I was going to do that anyway because I need to design the buildings for this land to be able to, you know, get people on board, the visualizations and credit, you know, it needs to happen. But I'm only now thankful and realizing the positives of what has happened, you know. But I can frankly say, between good friends keeping me and investing in my practice, and seeing the, you know, the sort of like abilities that I possess, would basically
Yeah.
have sponsored me. You know, whether it's like, oh, dude, like you've just got onto like an architectural design program, and I think in a week I was designing structures in Guatemala for a retreat space, just through the network of already having these like, you know, people around the world that are, you know, doing things in different ways. And then got my first sort of animation jobs very quickly afterwards by, you know, Marv being like, can you animate, man? I've got some budget, and me being like, yeah, I can
Yeah.
animate, bro. Yeah. And then, yeah, and then obviously being like, oh, flip, I've got I've got to animate. And then pushing yourself forward through that, because I'm a stubborn person who likes to, you know, when I have something on my plate, I like to achieve and I like to live up to my word. And now I'm like, and mate, like really thankful, because, you know, you just develop loads of skills which are invaluable to your development, you know. And independence, you know. And I feel like the more skills you have as a person, the more independent you can be in life, and that is the ultimate freedom, isn't it? You know.
And I
So
say the final products of the animation has been pretty dope. Like the stuff we
pretty dope.
have.
Always room for improvement, but yeah, man, you know, it goes through.
Yeah,
Currently working on 2 at the moment, which are going on, and so yeah, I mean, it's just a ball. So I've stayed employed, but I've been working below the national wage wage for like on all most of my products, but that's not anyone else's problem but
well,
me
that's all of us, bro.
putting in too much effort. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, exactly.
That's all of us, man. Like literally, we've all had to take those L's this year. But like you, we hustle harder, bro. We don't, you know, don't let shit like get you down. You just hustle harder, man.
Well, yeah, exactly. I suppose it's good to have a focal point, you know, and you know, like I get paid reasonably well for the jobs I did doing the event industry, a lot of like exhibition design for museums and stuff. It's good wages and stuff. So I know that when industry does come back, it's fine, but now it's about getting all the skills for the industry to then take a bit of industry and then fuck off to a jungle, mate, and, you know, leave that world behind,
Yeah,
which is
don't forget my invite, yeah.
You're the first, mate. You know, you're the first.
You know, Mob's moved to Ibiza now, so that's another checkpoint. We can meet there, maybe.
Yeah, dude. I love it when mates go off. You know, his friends are like, "Oh, he's leaving," and I'm like, "Good.
I'll see you.
Go and plant seeds around the world, man. Because when I want to go on holiday, I want to go to, you know, be with a local."
Yeah, exactly, man. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So I noticed quite a few spiritual themes in your artwork, and I mean, like we've obviously talked a lot about like philosophy and spirituality and stuff. So, like personally, do you follow any like specific religion or anything, or are you like what's your thing?
I'm without dogma.
Okay.
But I think I've got one of the most probably believe more in my independently designed sort of ethereal belief on the world more than most people who are like born again Christians. Do you know what I mean? Like,
no offense, born again Christians. Do your thing.
No, it's just the devotion and the belief. You know, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying like the belief in something is strong. I could have used any.
Yeah, no. I'm just teasing anyway.
A Naga Baba trying to bury himself in the ground is belief, you know. So yeah, but I have developed, I suppose, like my own independent understanding of the world that's purely just based on my own experiences, which I think is divine, and I feel like everyone should be like that. You know, there's symbolism that we all share within our own vision and stuff, which collides, you know, from our own visitations and feelings and thoughts that we go through life on the pathway, and the archetypes through these different religions that help us stay true to ourselves and try and guide us. But then there's in this contradiction of that, you know, the control of man, who will always use those pathways to manipulate people. And I think sadly so, and a way of kind of like getting rid of that in my head was to always remain separate, secular, but I've always seen, felt, and perceived reality in way more depth than being atheist. Do you know what I mean? It's like I have seen the dissolution of the body to energy points to the fact that then there is no differentiation between reverberating atoms between people and places and sights and sounds. And I'm like, beneath the veil of reality, bro. Beneath the veil of reality, like there is something that we can try and grasp that is infinitely beautiful. And I suppose when you follow the threads of all religions, it leads up to this one point, which is always this unity, this self-replicating pattern, this algorithm that's generating us, and everything we're trying to do is to almost be like that unity, you know, for every action that we take, whether it's sex, dancing, meditation. It's like dissolving the physical to become this you know, this almost like this infinite sea static of just pure probability beneath that veil. So I believe in an afterlife, infinite afterlife. I believe in infinite projections of the reality that we live in. I therefore am super excited about my death. I don't wish it upon myself right now inside of this, you know, spaceship, because I've got a lot of things to do with and I can do, which I think is beautiful, being inside of a body, because we've almost gone from the everything into being something to then create everything through. And it's a beautiful test of time that we have here on Earth in this temporary vessel. But I'm seriously excited for my death.
So do you follow any,
Right.
do you follow any like, what can I say, procedures, or what do they call it? Like religious practice? Like, do you light candles, or do you meditate? Yeah, I mean, stuff like
I don't actually. I do meditation through my craft, which is why painting is so important for me, because that really builds up a sort of sixth sense or a visitation, and it's the only process that relieves this pressure out of my whole system, which is, I suppose, the same as becoming sort of like truly self-conscious within a state of meditation. So I would say that most of my practices, even though they're like a much more contemporary form of it, would be closely knitted to Buddhism, you know, Zen Buddhism. Yeah, but I'm not a Buddhist. Like
those are like your mantras.
Yeah, precisely. Maybe in life there will be a point where I will attach to said teachings, but I think with the breath work, with the meditation, these like core, you know, respiratory sort of functions that, you know, really relieve us and generate power, I think that all rise back to, you know, ancient, you know, religious practices through and philosophies through a lot of like Eastern, you know, forms. So definitely not Catholicism, and not necessarily Judaism, you know, or you know, another of the big sort of religious practices, but secular like strains of Buddhism. I'd say were the sort of archetype that I'm most attracted to.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool, man. So I've got another.
What about you?
You're the second person to ask me this. So I mean, I'm spiritual, man. I like to refer to myself as spiritual. Like I'm a chameleon. I've always been a chameleon. I always take from different cultures, religion. I suppose maybe because I'm so mixed. I mean, like my DNA is like literally it comes from all over the world, except maybe North America. But like it's like 1/3 European, 1/3 African, 1/3 Asian, all mixed into one, you know. But I mean, I'm South African. I'm African. I don't know. That may or might not have a bearing on what I think and believe. It probably does. Doesn't.
Yeah.
I grew up Christian, and there was a point in my early 20s where I just started searching and I just started reading up. I read the Bible like twice. I read the Quran, and I read about Rastafarianism, got into Taoism, all that stuff. Kind of led me to eventually the Mahabharata and the Bhagavad Gita, and like,
I mean, incredible books,
bro. There's actually one particular book called The Autobiography of a Yogi,
yeah,
by Paramahansa Yogananda. And that particular book, because of my love for science and nature and history and ancient teaching and culture, it's like this dude just put it all in this book, and like he actually explained how like, you know, science and metaphysics can coexist within spirituality, and how like, you know, like even through the evolutionary process, how like the Vedas and ancient teachings from ancient, you know, India or the East actually explain things like the atom and evolution and shit like that. And I was like, yo, just like, and then I just kept on going. So I mean, like I've got my, you know, I wake up early, I meditate, you know, I do yoga pretty much every day, you know, stretching and stuff.
Oh, like those are the most important aspects of any practice.
Yeah.
The stretching, the exercise, the morning rituals of getting your body like stretched out and getting the blood pumping, getting the oxygen going is like from
Doing
there
yeah, and doing like
everything.
loads of like pranayam type of exercises, you know, breath exercises. But
Yeah, even
I'm not averse to going to I mean my wife is Catholic. I've had to become Catholic when I got married. And my kids are
okay.
um and some of my family in South Africa are like Muslim and like, you know what I mean, Christian and stuff like that. So I'm not averse to going to church or like whatever. Like I find the beauty in everything, and I kind of
Mm,
just allow all the like. I mean, I used to get really frustrated and angry. You know when you're learning about history and you're like, these fuckers, like what the fuck were they doing? The Catholic Church, or you know, even just Europeans, you know, like coming to Africa, and you know, you get really like
yeah,
pissed about shit like that. And now I'm kind of like, well, okay, I understand now, and I'm not going to allow that to affect my opinion of, because if I do that, then every time I meet the Catholic or Christian, I'm gonna be like, you fuckers and the Crusades, or you know,
yeah.
you know, if you're Muslim, you just, you know, like I don't want, you
I
know,
mean, that goes back to being like, oh, the fucking Homo sapiens trying to fuck off the fucking, you know, Neanderthals through continental shifts and stuff. And it's like that type of hate is like, it can't be put down onto Earth, can it? Because
yeah,
the process of humans fighting and fucking and spreading is kind of everywhere, and ideologies twisting around.
literally,
And I just like searched up a book that a friend was trying to get me to read, Zen Physics,
yeah,
which was like you said, like the
I've
you
seen
know
that, yeah.
the dated understanding combined with contemporary science and finding that like link. And there was a beautiful documentary which I'm not sure if it was on Netflix or not, but they were getting basically astrophysicists to talk to like natives in different parts of the world and trying to combine their like stories of their ancestry and origin with the science, and a lot of them collided at pivotal
Bro,
points at places and symbols with asteroids, with like the lot.
bro, with
And it was
stars,
like,
with like you say, asteroids, with comets. There's like with comets in China, there's like pictures depicting certain comets and things. You know, with
yeah,
certain how they map the stars. There's like tribes in West Africa or East Africa where they worship, or part of their god system is based on this binary star system. And it's,
ooh,
you can't really see a binary star with a naked eye, so it's like, how the fuck did they know that it's a binary star? Because obviously now we can with, you know, telescopes and shit, but these people had like, and they spoke about, which was, I was actually going to say, because like when I used to get into
going in.
I used to get into these religious debates like years ago, I always used to tell people I believe in aliens, because I love looking at humanity from above, because then we all the same, we just fucking, like you said, Homo
Yeah.
sapiens. But yeah, they
At
were
the
saying,
moment,
yeah, well, at the
change
moment,
now. We're something else now, dude.
yeah, I don't know what we are.
2020 was the pivotal point.
But yeah, no, I mean, I love those kind of ancient philosophies, and I've read a lot of Graham Hancock. I don't know if you know Graham Hancock.
Love him, love him, love him.
He's an OG, man. Like, he is a fucking fascinating dude, bro.
I got a message last night from my mate Jathy, who was saying about this other fella, and I didn't memorize his name. It was on the Joe Rogan and Graham Hancock podcast that just came out, and
Was there? Oh yeah, there was a new one that came out, isn't it?
yeah,
Because
but apparently there
he's
was
been on a few times.
yeah, it's like his third time I think now. Incredible, and like he has kind of single-handedly with Randy Carlson,
Oh yeah,
the
the
the,
guy who
the
did.
Freemason mathematician builder genius, and they've single-handedly kind of made like contemporary archaeologists and scientists realize that there was ancient civilizations before the last ice age. They're like, dude, there was a comet, biblical references all lead to it, mass flooding, lots of destruction, and it goes on to crazy stuff, what was the ring? Atlantis, they feel like
Yes,
was in
Atlantis.
northeast Africa now. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of like plots that are going to this one sacred site, and everything leads up from like the stories that Plato said about how to get there, and there's just so much that has been lost, even from the burning of the libraries of Alexandria, which I feel like a vast majority of our modern medicine focuses on, like the 2% of stuff that was left over from that.
That's what I'm saying.
From
Can you
that,
imagine?
you know,
Can you imagine
predicament.
the information, bro? Like in that library, like you know what I'm saying? That was lost.
War. Why? Why war? Why? Shit,
Well, I mean,
man.
that's the legacy of the fucking conquerors, isn't it? I mean, even I mean, okay, so this might be slightly controversial or contentious, but like many people believe that Napoleon and them, they shot off the noses of the great sphinxes because they were actually flat, black, featured faces. You know what I mean?
Big, beautiful African noses.
You know
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah.
Like, fucking hell, bro. Like the conquerors, and this is my gripe, not gripe, but like especially with like religion in places like Africa or like South America and stuff, where people are very pious and very attached to this God or Jesus or whatever, to the point where they're willing to accept their poverty and their misfortune because of the way it was presented to them. Do you know what I mean? And by whoever
Yeah.
presented it to them. It's like, yo, you take this book, we taking all your land, we taking all your gold, we taking all your diamonds and shit. You take this, and then this will make you feel better. Like, you know what
Swap. The Book of Eli is a great example of that, isn't it? When they're hunting down the Bible, like the last Bible, because they're like, the words. We get the words, we can have everything. Which is about an apocalyptic sort of future.
I don't know if I've seen it. Sounds
You should. Banging movie. But
yeah.
even it's bizarre in places in Latin America, like Guatemala. You know, there's like a combo of like these. You know, the Catholicism. The Catholicism is still big, but the ancient cultural
and Orishas, isn't it?
Yeah, or like ancient Mayan type
Or
sort
is
of
it, oh, with them it's Mayan. I'm thinking of because in Cuba they have the African heritage. So like from the Yoruba, Orishas, you know, Shango and all that combined with Catholicism, and they've got these.
Okay.
Yeah.
I need to research about that, dude. I'm gonna write that down. Orisha. How do you spell it?
Yeah, you never heard of the Orishas? They're like the ancestors or guiding spirits of quite a few tribes. And Shango is one of the main gods there. There's a few other names, like there's dances and ritual dances that they do and stuff. I don't know exactly too deep, but yeah, check it out, man.
Fair play, dude. Fair play.
Yeah. But I suppose it's the same in South America because they brought the Catholicism there, but then they intertwined. It's the same like in South Africa where you have the traditional tribal culture combined with Christianity. You know what I mean?
I mean, Christmas is like Saint Nicholas is like an old Italian like monk who used to give people presents, and it's got like Scandinavian like essence with presents and magic mushrooms, and then it's like capitalism, Catholicism. Yeah, it's a blend of like all of these crazy. It just proves how much we move.
Yeah, and then
migrate. Like, you know what I mean?
I fucking grew up in like a hot country celebrating fucking Snow White, White Christmas and Father Christmas and all this bullshit. You know, when we fucking boiling our asses off there, like in summertime, because it's summer Christmas. Like,
yeah. Watching the TV, being like, "Oh man, that looks cold." That looks cold.
Like, whoa, White Christmas? Nah.
That's the trick, isn't it, to bring you over here until you realise it's cold and shit.
Yeah, well, that's I blame actually colonialism for that, and that's why like many European countries are complaining about all the foreign imports, and it's like, yo, but you went there and you taught them the language, so why they not why wouldn't they come here? It's like you made it feel like it's fucking, you know.
It's basically like at the moment like British kind of, or like English or British Isles. I don't want to say like England. I'm talking about, you know, Scotland, Ireland, Northern Ireland, the British Isles and relating islands. Like their culture was pretty much wiped out by the Romans. So the only culture we kind of have is actually the connections that minority groups from around the world have brought in and stimulated our everything about our country, you know. And it's the side of say England that I love is its multicultural diversity and its acceptance of gender and race and everything that's sort of come out of that revolution of industrialization. And there's all the negatives, But again, it's like the Crusades, you know, like we're fueled by war around the world. But when people move around the world, most of the time they're actually like just trying to survive, eat, trade, fall in love with, you know, people. And that's kind of takes up actually the majority of everything. You're not constantly waving a sword around and a shield and like, do you know what I mean? That's tiring. So yeah, there is a real beauty there. And I feel with that conquest, like, I feel that is, you know, there's positives that come out of such a thing. The atrocities, are not excusing any of the atrocities, you know, those who should have been held accountable have never, you know, and there's still, like, for instance, recently in Bristol, when they took down that statue, it kind of reemerged that they're still paying off debt to slave owners when they abolished slavery. And as a result, because of all the slave owners were like, well, this is our business, the state had to pay them out, you know, and that's still going on today, which is fucked up.
Funny you speak about it. I was actually,
Fucked up.
I saw a documentary on it, and I was speaking to someone on it who's in Bristol at the moment, because his little brother was learning about it in school, about that Lord Coulston, who was one of the biggest sugar barons and basically slave trader, and that was the statue that they chucked in the river.
Dude, yeah, I know. My two best mates were the one who ankle grinded it off.
Go on.
I was like, what? And then they went and started proposing new statues to the local government afterwards. It's like, yeah, we'll get down with that, but you know, we're sculptors, you know, don't worry about it. But yeah, that is, I mean, Colston, I mean, I only really clicked with the whole Tate thing and the whole sugarcane and everything when I was, it must have been like about 5 years ago. And I went over to City Airport and saw like the whole, you know, they've got the airport, but then they've got the old Tate factory, sugar factory, and Tate. And then it was like, and I was like, oh, of course.
Yeah.
Why do these people have billions of pounds? You know what I mean? Why are they the like custodians of art? And why do they fund and do this like contemporary art and stuff? It's because of the back of slavery, man.
Yeah.
And then you sort of realize that everything is, and then it's like, oh God. Oh.
Shame of my ancestry.
I can only say that I've got Celtic Irish genes in me, so I can sort of sometimes be like, I'm not the British side, I'm the fucking Irish.
I'm fucking Irish.
Hello, good sir. Don't fucking talk to me, bye. I'll stop there.
Like, I know about that shit. Yeah, there's a new segment on my podcast that I got where it's called When I. So I'm gonna say when I, blah blah blah, and then you fill in the gaps. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So when I am faced with an angry person,
I stare them in the eyes with a sense of mirroring of themselves when they were at their most positive.
Sick. All right. When I
Mickey Blue Eye here. It's just a mirror. Where's my camera? There's too many cameras here. It's definitely like the GoPro. I remember.
All right. When I am asked to do something I don't want to,
I weigh up the positives and negatives and make a judgment based on if this is staying truthful to myself, if it is my fears taking over me, or if it is unjust and wrong.
I see, yeah. When I go to bed,
I let down my weary head and put on an episode of The Mandalorian.
Sick. I need to actually get into it. Now that you mention it, I'm going to get into that.
Yeah, it's dope. It's dope.
When I feel happy?
When I feel happy, I realize that this is just a part of the dualistic nature of my being, and that underneath the happiness and the sadness are what contributes to my fulfillment in life.
And last one, when I overdo it,
I feel happy with myself because you've got to give life your all, and I get up and I do it again.
Thanks, bro.
I will not go down.
I will not
More
never
is more.
surrender.
More is more.
I'll
More is
never
more.
surrender.
Hey,
But yeah,
there's a
bro.
little-
No, I was just gonna say, man, that's pretty much all the questions I have for you today. So if you have anything else you want to add or say or tell the people, you can.
Yeah, I mean, I'd just like to thank you very much for having me on the podcast. I'm actually collecting all of your podcasts so I can watch them in situ when I start my next painting, where I've got a bit of like time where I'm not like browsed in between loads of different commission work, which at the moment I'm super blessed to have, but I'm also like,
By the
there's
way,
so much I want to do.
By the way, this is the guy who designed the logo for the podcast and my new logo as well. Not to mention a music video that should be coming out soon as well.
What? That's such a beautiful tune, Keenan, man. What is the word with it? Are you just holding it, making like basically letting it collect traction?
Marketing strategy.
Yeah.
I'm waiting.
Hold on to it like Bitcoin, baby. Do you know what I mean? Just put it aside for a while, let it grow. But I also just wanted to say thank you very much for your sponsorship, mate, of my craft. Like every little bit like goes towards basically building my future and developing as a person. So thank you very much for believing in me and sponsoring me and keeping me ticking along, mate. Because it means a lot.
I didn't know that you've never done animation before. Like, oh yeah.
This is it, mate. You got some people like lie and then don't live up to it. But I'm glad that I could have.
Bro, I wouldn't have got half of the jobs that I got if I didn't like be like walk into the studio. It's like, do you know how to use SSL? And it's like, yeah, like millions of buttons, all fucking big ass. Like, yeah, of course, man.
Otherwise, you're never going to learn anything new because they're just going to be like, no, and then just go back around in a circle, you know. But I'm super excited to go and listen to the other people that you've had on the line. I've seen a load of the emails come through, and I'm like, oh, nice.
Yeah, there's some pretty dope ones, man, and something for everyone as well. Like it's really diverse, and the content is quite varied. So enjoy it. And thanks again for coming on. This has been the Other Side of the Sun podcast. Joey Baker, check out his artwork. It's all on his website, joeybakerart.com. I will have the links in the description. I'm the solarkidd, and we are out. Peace.